At the Five Poppies Resort, shadows hung thick across the tiled floors and gilded walls, cloaking a world of secrets in velvet silence. Britt Westbourne's heart thundered in her chest as she pressed herself against the door, listening for movement on the other side. She had no plan, no weapon, nothing but nerves and desperation, and yet she forced herself inside, drawn by the muffled sounds of suffering. What she found was worse than expected. Josslyn, Jax and Vaughn, bound and bloodied, their eyes wide with exhaustion yet sharpened by fury. For Britt, the shock doubled when Josslyn admitted she was not the helpless college girl everyone assumed but rather a covert WSB agent partnered with Vaughn. The revelation cracked the ground beneath Britt's instincts. It sounded impossible, but the resolve in Josslyn's voice was undeniable, and the way Vaughn carried his injuries with stoic discipline lent credibility to her words. Britt crouched low beside Vaughn, her medical training quick to surface. The injuries were painful but not fatal, and her relief was evident in the sigh that escaped her lips. "He'll alive," she murmured, though her expression darkened with uncertainty. Josslyn seized the moment, begging her for help, for some way out. But Britt's voice wavered with hesitation. She was caught between the fear of discovery and the moral weight pressing down on her conscience. "You'll have to save yourselves," she whispered, though even as she spoke, her hands betrayed her heart. In a flash of defiance, she slipped Josslyn a pair of nail scissors, their small metallic glint carrying the promise of liberation. That secret act of defiance set into motion a chain of events that would explode beyond her control. Josslyn and Vaughn worked tirelessly, cutting through restraints in silence, sweat and determination mixing in the dim light of captivity. When the door creaked open later, and their captor stepped inside to check on them, the two agents struck like cornered predators. The scuffle was violent and desperate, the confined space erupting into chaos until the man fell under the weight of their attack. Hope surged, but so did risk. For every victory inside the hostage room, suspicion brewed outside. Pascal, sharp-eyed and unyielding, noticed Britt leaving the scene and his doubts flared. He cornered her with cold calculation, probing her for answers. Britt, her mask slipping, urged caution and insisted that nothing be done without the boss's word. Her plea bought her time, but Pascal's smoldering suspicion would not fade. In his gaze, she had already overstepped. Back in her room, Britt's trembling hands fumbled with the disposable phone Jason Morgan had pressed into her palm before she left Port Charles. The device was her lifeline, yet the signal felt like a noose tightening around her throat. When Jason answered at the airport, the relief in her chest nearly shattered her composure, but the words spilled out of her in panicked fragments. Jason strained to decipher her pleas, catching only the urgency. She needed him, now. But fate was cruel, and Pascal's looming figure appeared at her door mid-call. His expression was deadly calm, but his words sliced sharper than any blade. He accused her of betrayal, of undermining their operation. For Pascal, the boss's authority was meaningless now. Britt had crossed an invisible line, and there would be consequences. Elsewhere, in the cold elegance of Jack Brennan's office, the unraveling operation took center stage. Colette Moreau stormed in with a sharp tongue and sharper grievances, lambasting Brennan's agents for their incompetence. Her disdain dripped with venom as she painted the picture of a botched mission. Brennan, however, bristled at her accusations, sensing not professional concern but the thrill of watching him falter. Still, Colette pressed him to report to her, to let her clean the slate before the fallout consumed them all. Beneath her urgency was calculation, and Brennan knew it, but he was left with little room to maneuver as his empire trembled. The tense air cracked further when Carly Spencer arrived, her presence carrying the weight of unfinished wars and unhealed wounds. She demanded a private moment, and Brennan, sensing the vulnerability in her eyes, obliged. Carly confessed her regrets about Drew, reflecting on how misguided she had been in her assumptions about him. Her words wavered between remorse and doubt, her voice haunted by the possibility that she had misjudged Brennan as well. The trust she had once wielded so confidently now fractured in her hands. Brennan, ever the tactician, offered no promises. He admitted he could not swear he would not hurt her, and yet the tenderness in his tone revealed a conflict burning behind his polished mask. To Carly, that contradiction was both terrifying and strangely comforting. Their fragile moment shattered when word of Drew's shooting reached Brennan. His reaction was not shock but a calculated response, as though he had anticipated the news. He spoke with chilling calmness, framing Carly's presence with him as a shield, an alibi woven seamlessly into his strategy. "It's a good thing you were with me tonight," he remarked, his words carrying the dual weight of reassurance and entrapment. For Carly, the realization was suffocating. She had walked into a web where every gesture, every conversation, every flicker of vulnerability might be weaponized. Brennan's world was a game of survival, and now, willingly or not, she was a piece on his board. At 5 poppies, the night stretched on like a tightening vice. Britt's defiance, Josslyn and Vaughn's daring resistance, Pascal's rising fury, and Brennan's tightening grip all spiraled toward a collision course. Trust eroded with each whisper, alliances blurred, and danger pressed in from every corner. What began as a mission of secrecy had transformed into a war of survival, where every choice carried the potential to ignite catastrophe. And as the pieces moved across the board, agents, captors, allies, enemies, the line between victim and villain blurred, leaving everyone to question who was truly pulling the strings, and who would live to see the dawn. Would you like me to expand this further, adding more depth to Josslyn and Vaughn's escape sequence, Britt's inner conflict, and Carly's emotional breakdown with Brennan, so the article reaches your requested approximately 10,000 characters?